People are getting dumber. Just straight up. People are getting dumber. And I think it's important that we start this conversation by prefacing what makes somebody dumb. Because just because you don't know something doesn't make you inherently dumb. Because you cannot know something, but then have that curiosity of, I want to know about this thing. It piques your interest. You go, you find answers, you learn, you research. You continue to essentially have this growth mindset that I don't know, but I'm going to find out. What makes people dumb is that they don't do their due diligence. They don't look into things. Or they speak out of ignorance. They speak out of arrogance. They don't know something, yet they still want to get their opinions out there. That makes them dumb. And not only that, but someone that's also dumb fails to recognize context and nuance in conversation. So I'm going to address those two things today. And I'm going to address kind of how, in my opinion, where they stem from, how it starts. And we'll go from there. So the first point that I made is that one of the things that makes you dumb is when you refuse to do your own due diligence. You refuse to do research. In order to truly understand a topic, you have to have some sort of educational foundation. For example, if you want to talk about politics, you got to have basic understanding on how government works. Or if you want to be able to discuss the economic side of politics, you got to understand basic economics. You got to. If you don't have those basic foundations, then you're not going to be able to continue any sort of conversation because you just don't have the foundation. Just like, for example, if I gave someone a math problem, let's say I gave you a linear algebra problem, shout out linear algebra, and you don't even know what 2 plus 2 is, you're never going to be able to do algebra. You're never going to be able to do linear algebra. Because then when you look at that problem, you're going to think that this is literal hieroglyphics. You're thinking, did I just time travel back to the Pharaoh time? Am I about to meet Moses? That's what you're going to be thinking. So it's important that you have to have that foundation no matter what realm it is. Politics is an example. Sports can also be an example. You can't really talk about athletes if you've never yourself played a sport. I think it's really easy to criticize an athlete knowing that you haven't played the sport yourself. I'm looking at all the sports commentators. A lot of y'all have never picked up a ball. But anyways, you have to have that foundation. What tends to happen, especially now, especially with the age of social media and quick access media, like Fox and CNN, MSNBC, or even people like Ben Shapiro and Nick Fuentes and all these dumbasses, right? Is people just take what they hear at face value. And I would say that taking things at face value isn't always a bad thing. Like, for example, if you are trying to find a partner, you're trying to settle down, whatever it is. And in situations like that, you should definitely take the person at face value. You shouldn't try to change them or whatever it may be. But when we're talking about education, when we're talking about discourse, when we're talking about knowledge, you cannot just take things at face value. Because there's so many different resources and so many different perspectives that you need to be able to account for. There's people with varying range of credentials. Like, people love to have their opinions on religion, but do you think they understand religion better than someone who has studied religion or a scholar? We kind of see that in faith in general, where the layman thinks that they have authority, where they try to put together this cogent argument when in reality you are not qualified to speak on what you're talking about because you haven't done your due diligence, you haven't done your research. So with the quick access of social media, this has only been amplified. And people are essentially just parroting each other. They're just regurgitating what they hear. And this is dangerous. And this is how compounded ignorance begins. So compounded ignorance is when an ill-informed person makes an ill-informed opinion and then continues to build on that opinion, tells other people about that opinion, and then other people start believing that opinion. And since that person that started the whole chain in the first place has never gotten checked, they continue to build this sense of confidence that, oh, I'm intelligent, when you're not. And it trickles into every other part of their life. And now they begin to have adverse effects on other people and their ability to understand things. And we've seen this for decades, centuries even. And people have just fallen into propaganda machines. And the people that actually do their research, the people that actually do their due diligence, they're ostracized. They're ridiculed by the average person. And it feels as if you're going insane because you're like, why the hell is nobody listening to me? But it's just because that cycle has been going on for too long, they don't even realize they're in it. They're in that spin cycle of propaganda, and they don't even realize they spin it. That dizziness that they feel in that spin cycle, they just now assume normal life. Like, yo, this is just how I'm supposed to be. And when you're outside that spin cycle, you're like, I can see perfectly fine. I don't got headaches 24/7. But people will end up just being stuck in their ways. They will stay in what is comfortable to them. And this idea translates to so many different facets of your life. This idea of just being comfortable where you are, the refusal to push beyond those bounds. It's a theme that you can put into your healing process with trauma. You can put it in education here. You can put it into goals you want to achieve, whatever that may be. People just get comfortable where they are, even if that comfort, that known territory is harmful for them. They will still rather stay in that than challenge anything else. Because it's like our brains operate based off of data. Even though it doesn't seem like some of y'all use your brain, the brain is trying to weigh its pros and cons. If I want to go and consider this venture, consider this path, consider this idea, do I have any sort of data that I can use to say this is a good idea? And when it's unknown territory, you don't have data, right? So your brain's just like, okay, I'll just stay here. I'll just stay in this trauma cycle, this abuse cycle. I'll stay in this realm of being ignorant and dumb. And then you just live your whole life like that. Again, going unchecked. What do you think is going to happen? So this is years, decades, maybe even centuries at times, worth of propaganda that is built off each other. And as a result, we have people that have completely misconstrued perceptions on a wide range of topics. And it also doesn't make it better when these outlets, media outlets, whatever it may be, they thrive off of fear. They bank on these ill-informed people to keep them up and running. So it's like these news channels and these sources know in the back of their head that they're propagandizing everything, but they're just banking on the average person to not second guess them. And that's why the idea of heavily relying on CNN or heavily relying on Fox News, heavily relying on any sort of media outlet, and not going to neutral sources, not speaking to people that are experts in the field. Like, for example, I mean, look who overlooks our health department in the United States now. You're telling me that Robert F. Kennedy is more knowledgeable than actual scientists in the field, the politicians saying, "Yo, we don't need measles. That shit's fake." And now we have the highest measles count since the goddamn disease started. I wonder why. Maybe it's because you took away the thing that the scientists said are actually good for you. But again, compounded ignorance. It now trickles in everywhere, and no one's safe from it. Everyone had to take a conscious effort to combat that, which people aren't really doing. What was the second thing? The second thing that I said was, you know what? I gotta look back at the video. I tried to do this in one take, but I'll be back. I remember. Dumb people also are not able to understand context and nuance in conversation. When someone is giving their opinion, when someone is giving a take, for example, all my takes that I ever give, whether it's the stuff I talk about on here, whether it's my TikTok videos, if you come from TikTok, my opinions, my yaps, my takes are based off of anecdotal experience. There are times where I will bring actual statistics to back up what I'm saying, but otherwise everything is based off observation. And my observation, I would say, living my life, I have been in every crowd possible. So when it comes to my observations, I would like to say my observations hold weight because I've been exposed to a lot. Whereas people that have not been exposed to these different realms the way that I have, they can't really formulate an opinion on it because you've never really been in it. You've never really experienced it. But what dumb people will do is that they'll still try and give their opinion when they don't understand context and nuance. For example, if I made a video that was talking about the importance of having a healthy relationship, the reason why it's so important for you to develop a healthy relationship is because of X, Y, Z. Here's what happens when you grow up without them, without loving parents, with constant bickering siblings, with a toxic parent, whatever it may be. When you don't have those healthy relationships, here's what happens to you. And this is stuff that you can even just statistically look up. Like, for example, when you grow up in a very emotionally volatile household, it can cause a lot more anxiety in the child. You can just look that up. It also can cause emotional unavailability, or they become overly articulate to the point that, why is an 8-year-old speaking like this? Why does an 8-year-old have this level of intelligence? It's kind of impressive, but at the same time, it's really sad because we know where this comes from. But people that have not seen a toxic environment for themselves, or whether they didn't live it, they would say, this can't be true. My parents were fine. Ain't nobody fucking talking about you specifically, dipshit. Dumb people cannot simply empathize on a basic level. When you lack basic human empathy, when you're not able to put yourself in the shoes of another individual, that, okay, Zan right now is talking from his experience. So when he's giving his takes, I gotta try and think back to how he grew up. So Zan's giving a take on what happens when you live in a toxic household. Zan has talked about his upbringing before, and it is definitely on the rougher side. So perhaps he might be qualified to talk about what happens because it's happened to him. I haven't experienced that. So therefore, everything Zan's saying has to be bullshit. Do you see the logical gap there? Do you see the issue with that kind of thinking? But this is so common, especially on TikTok. But this is so common, just the average person. The average person only will look at things through their lens. They are incapable of zooming out and looking at things holistically. They only look at it from their own personal experience. And I've said before, if you come from TikTok, but something I say a lot is that people live their life based off of their personal experiences. That's kind of common sense. But as you get older, and as you experience different people from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic classes, different religions, different cultures, you should be building a more general sense of the world. But that's not what happens. I feel like one of the reasons why we see people that are unable to take context and nuance in anything is because of how they grew up. When you've been bubbled, when you've been sheltered, when you've been coddled, and you have never had to worry about a goddamn thing in your life, even as a grown adult, your only worry is just get good grades. Your only worry is just pass. You haven't had to deal with any sort of existential external challenge. And then you grew up around the same people. Your friend groups are still the same since you were 5 years old. It's all the same race, it's all the same religion. You have now shot yourself in the foot when it comes to your sociological development. Because now you fail to understand other people. You fail to understand other backgrounds. You fail to understand the bigger picture. And this is, I feel, very common. It's very common for the average person. The average person will not step out of their comfort zone and will not branch out, will not look to expand their horizons in terms of sociologic perspective. They won't do it because they're comfortable where they are. In my specific case, I was forced. I didn't grow up with people of the same culture as me. I was usually the only Muslim around as well. So from a young age, I was thrown into a very diverse area. North Philly was very black. It was very Hispanic. All my boys, even to this day, are either black or Hispanic. I ain't got many white friends. I don't got really brown friends. And we grew up with that ability to be able to see other cultures, other backgrounds. And I think what also allowed us to develop this overall understanding is because we're struggling the same way. Like all the struggles that these communities have, not only was I a witness to these struggles, I was also part of those struggles. I was grouped in. So now we're all just struggling together. We're all just getting fucked up by the system together. But it allowed us to see that, oh my God, there are other people like us out there. And I feel like a lot of people haven't been challenged in that way. So when you haven't been put in situations where you're going to have to see the bigger picture, of course you're not going to be able to do it. But it gets to a point where you're an adult and you need to go out and seek that discomfort. You cannot be comfortable forever. You cannot. You cannot be comfortable forever. You cannot be friends with the same people forever. You cannot go your entire life on easy mode, not pissing a single person off, not challenging a single thought, and think you're going to live a meaningful life. If you want to be able to live a meaningful life, in my opinion, you got to get your ass out there. You got to start experiencing life for what it actually is. But people don't want to do that because, again, they just want to stick to what they know. And now when you apply these two ideas, this one I just talked about with the lack of context and nuance and compounded ignorance, when you combine this together, now you just have an army of dumbasses. An army of fucking donuts, bro. You genuinely just have a group of fucking idiots. And now when you have people that try to challenge that status quo, it feels like you're the one that's going fucking crazy. And this has been all 21 years of my life. I look around, I see all this shit, and I'm like, how is no one talking about this? How is no one talking about it? But it's because people don't want to talk about it. I've kind of gotten to that point in my life where I'm not gonna go out and try and be that savior. There's no S on my damn chest. I'm not gonna save you. I'm not gonna try and help you think anymore. You want to be stuck in your ways? Be stuck in your ways. But what I can do is for the people that are in their developmental years that feel that same way, that feel that sense of left outedness or ambiguity with their life. What I can do is extend an olive branch through videos and through my yaps and through my words that will encourage them to continue to seek out. That will encourage them to go and not be a dumbass. And I feel like with enough time and enough effort, it also has to be a collective effort, but with enough time and effort, we can get to a point where maybe the average person isn't as dumb as they are right now. But only time will tell. If you enjoyed this video, you should check out all my socials. Link is in the description. It's in the link tree. I got everything on that bitch. Check it out. And get used to these videos. I have a lot of fun making these. But get used to this shit. Okay, I missed the record. I missed the end record button. That's really awkward.